Bom dia, gente. Good morning, guys. Are you ready for a class today? Look at my guys. Hello, Cristina. Oi, Cristina. Feliciana. Annabella. Gabby. Guys, look at mine. It doubled the size. How are you guys doing? Oh, let me see if David is here. Let's get him over here. I hope we don't have any technical problems today, guys. I'm crossing my fingers. Oh, hello!
Good morning.
Good morning. It worked well this morning. No technical difficulties.
Yeah, we're here. Great. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm having to hide in my trailer because 9:30 Central with 3 kids and my mother-in-law in the kitchen, it would have been just we would be able to listen no steps at all whatsoever. David, I want to show you mine. Look at that.
Ooh, that looks really great. That's cool that you put it in a glass bowl like that. I like to see it like that. That's awesome. Looks fantastic.
Scared. When I first woke up this morning, I was pretty scared, I must say.
Well, like I said yesterday, the first time I did one of these no-knead doughs, it kind of had me a little apprehensive too. But y'all will see that it's going to shape right up into a nice loaf of bread.
Okay, let's do it. Follow your lead.
All right. So yes, we have our dough that's risen overnight, and it does kind of look loose, and mine's even fallen a little bit, but that's okay. So you can see there, it's kind of fallen off the sides a little bit.
Yeah.
But like I said, that made me apprehensive the first time, but now I know it works, so it's awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit of flour on my counter, not too much. And then work my dough off the sides of the bowl. This is where a dough scraper or some kind of spatula comes in really handy. But if you don't have it, just work it with your fingers. You see, because this gluten has developed now, you see we can stretch. You don't have to do this part, but you can see how nicely it stretches. That's because the fermentation, the gases that have built up have stretched and helped to develop that gluten in this bread. So yeah, we're going to scrape it off the sides. And
guys, I want to talk at the end. I want to talk a little bit more about how to turn your starter into a gluten-free starter. I was really curious about that.
All right. So I'm just going to put it out on that little bit of flour on the counter like that. And then we're going to basically do that same fold that we did last night. So you're just picking up the edge and kind of stretching it over the top. And then you can turn it and just stretch it on over the top.
Okay.
Stretch it again. Stretch it. And then turn it over so that those folds are on the bottom. And then you just kind of pull it towards you. Pull it. It's going to stick a little bit, just sort of grip to the counter, but not stick too bad. And just kind of keep pulling it.
Oh. Okay.
Like that. And you can see the surface of this is stretching nicely.
Does that look good to you?
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. That's what we're looking for.
Great.
And now, so if you have a fancy proofing basket like that, that's great. Sprinkle a little flour in there and you can put your dough right in there if you want to. But, sorry.
Paper?
Yes, you just take a piece of parchment paper like this. And for the parchment paper, put it in the center The center of the paper with the folds, the seam side down for this one. Okay?
So that
because
side up, right? That side up.
Yes, the nice smooth side should be up. Okay. The part where the seam should be down. And then I'm just taking a bowl. Mine's just a metal bowl like this, sort of medium size. It's going to fit this dough just straight and just plop it down inside there like that. Okay, you can see maybe I even have some little bubbles on top. That's fine. I'm not worried about that.
That looks good?
That looks great, Camila.
Okay.
Sprinkle the top with just a tiny bit of flour. Just a very tiny bit of flour.
What does that do?
It's going to keep this towel from sticking to the top. That's all it is. That's all it's about.
That's good to know.
So I have a nice tea towel here, and I'm going to just cover that up with that right directly on the loaf. And this is just going to keep it so it doesn't dry out too much on the surface for the next hour and a half or so. Oh,
you push the tea towel down.
Yeah, that's why I put the flour on there so it doesn't stick, but just put it right directly on there.
Okay.
Now you did great with your plastic last night because then it didn't stick to the top of the dough. But now with the tea towel, with a little bit of flour on there, you put it directly on there and that'll keep it from getting too dry.
Got it.
Okay.
I have a question. So 2 questions. One is the tea towel. Do we need to is it fine if it's folded or does it need to be just a 1 layer?
It can be folded. I folded mine. It's like 2 or 3. Mine's 4 layers actually,
okay.
Just so it fits in there.
And then somebody else was asking here. Margaret is asking if I want to make a rectangular loaf. Do I go differently or do I put in the parchment paper in the loaf pan in the bowl?
If you're going to put it directly into the loaf pan, see if I can show that a little bit. You just want to make it a little more rectangular when you're pulling it. And then I would spray the rectangular baking pan with a little cooking spray and skip the parchment and just put it directly into that pan because you're going to leave that in that pan and put the whole pan into the oven probably.
Okay, so basically, because right now we're going to leave this to rise, correct?
Exactly. This has to rise for an hour and a half or so. Okay,
so if we're going to leave it to rise, if she's doing a rectangular pan, so basically she's going to be rising her bread on the pan if she's doing the rectangular one.
Yes, exactly. It will raise in the pan and bake in the pan.
Okay.
This one we're going to take out and put it into a Dutch oven to bake. But if you have a rectangular pan, a bread tin, then you want to let it rise in the tin and it'll bake in the tin as well.
Okay, Margaret, give me thumbs up to make sure that you understood that part, please, and that you're all good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then...
So hold on, David. So right now, do all of us take few seconds to set up our alarms for, is it an hour and a half?
Set your alarm for an hour.
Okay.
It's probably going to take more like an hour and a half, but you want to check it after about an hour.
Okay. And do you have there to show us what we're looking for?
I do.
Okay.
I've prepared some ahead. So this one is just right. So it was the same size. And see how it's it's so hard to show here without them tumbling out. So it hasn't truly doubled yet. I'm not looking for double, but it's like 1.5 times the size. But the important thing is that when I touch it, it feels like it has air in it now. So this one that you just put in there, it feels pretty solid. But when it starts to proof, it's going to feel like it has air in it. And I'm touching it very gently. You can also do this test where you press in with your finger and watch it spring back. And this one is springing back but kind of slowly. It's not too fast. It's coming back, but coming back slowly. Now let me show you a couple more.
So wait a second. So if you, okay, so you want to feel a little cushion when you put your finger in, it bounces back slowly.
Right.
That's when it didn't double, but it may be
1.5 times or so.
1.5 times.
Right.
So that's like when it's proof. It's like, you're like, okay, it's good to bake.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, somebody was saying, David, that they don't have parchment paper.
So then you just want to flour the bowl, or you could even spray it with a little cooking spray, but flour is probably better because otherwise you're going to have that oil on the surface. And then put your bread in upside down, because then you're going to, like with a banneton, you're going to flip it upside down into the pot. You'll see when I bake this in a minute, the parchment just makes it easier when you have a Dutch oven that's kind of deep to pick this up and put it inside the pot. That's the only purpose of the parchment. Okay. So if you don't have parchment, what we're going to do is just have this loaf upside down, and then very carefully tip it upside down into the pot so that the folded side is down inside the pot.
Got it. All right.
And it's still going to bake just fine, and it's going to come out, and not, if your Dutch oven or whatever you're baking in is preheated, it's not going to stick to it. That's not the purpose of the parchment at this stage. This just makes it easier to pick it up and put it into the Dutch oven. That's why we do that.
We're getting some comments about people saying they missed the first video. You can go into my IGTV and you'll have the first video in there, and also the recipe and all the information you need is on womenoftoday.com. Okay. All right, so show us. Are you going to show us something that is like wrong? So we know.
Yes. So this is the one that we just shaped. This is one that I shaped about a half hour ago. And you can see I'm pressing in and it's springing back a little faster. It's kind of hard to tell on there. But it's springing back faster. But mostly I'm feeling it. And it feels like it has some air in it, but it's not as light feeling as this one. Okay. It's just still feels heavy to me. It still feels doughy, dense inside and doughy, yes. Okay. So I can tell a difference between the just shaped one and this one. It's starting. I can feel some air, and it's mostly on top. And when I push just lightly, I'm feeling underneath the sort of air on top, I'm feeling it's denser underneath. Whereas this one, I feel it, and it feels like kind of like the whole thing is airy. It's hard to describe in words, but when you're feeling it, you'll feel a difference in the density.
Got it. Okay.
You can actually feel that it's starting to have air in sort of on top, but down deep in there, it's not airy. But this one feels airy. Okay? Okay. Now, this one I did a couple hours ago.
It looks like runny.
Yes, it's flattened out, you can see. Yeah. It's not rounded. And this is part of where maybe some loaves are going flat because they're too much. Now this one actually it was colder this morning, so it hasn't overrisen quite as much even as I wanted to demo, but so this one is still going to bake up okay. It's just going to probably be a little bit flatter. But you can see when I push in, see it is springing back some, but it's much slower. And it just feels like this one, again, it's not way over.
Yeah, I can tell. It looks runny.
But
let me just kind of regroup here on this. So this part of this step that we're doing right now, which is to let it proof, right? Mm-hmm. For an hour to an hour and a half.
Right.
It is the most important step in terms of how much your bread is going to rise.
Exactly.
Correct? And how much like fluffy and stuff is going to be inside?
Yes.
Not fluffy, I guess the air bubbles and stuff.
Yeah, no, that's right, yes.
So you do not want to overproof, right? So if you go like longer, it's going to be like runny and like that, and it's not going to rise as well.
Exactly. It's going to be flatter and not have that nice risen.
Okay, got it. All right, so after we do this for an hour and a half, and the reason why, and you and I talked about this, David, when I was trying to understand all the steps, is that you're saying that it's an hour and a half because um, every house temperature is different, right? So
Right.
that's why you need to watch it.
Right. The dough temperature overnight, it's, you know, mine might be different than yours. And then the kitchen right now might be different. Like I said, it was kind of cooler this morning.
Yeah.
So even though I shaped that one a couple hours ago, it hasn't risen as much as I thought it might. Like the other day, last week when I did a demo on our Easy Tiger feed on Facebook, we did this same demo and it had risen much more and it came out really kind of flat and overproofed. It's still baked up okay, but it wasn't like this one would probably bake up better than that. But
hey, David, we have Rambo Stern is saying mine is too wet to shape, and then we have Nora Castro saying mine's it's not runny, it's too dense. So we have two opposites here. What is your suggestion?
So if it's the wet one, maybe just fold it and then let it sit now for say 45 minutes and try it again. So what you're going to do right now, you're going to just give it those 4 folds like we did last night. And that's going to give the gluten a little bit more strength. It's you may think it's wet, but if you develop that gluten a little bit more, it'll still be wet, but it might not be as round, but it's still going to have, you're going to develop strength in it so that it will still rise. So give that a try. Give one more fold to it. If it seems like you just impossible to shape right now, give one more fold and wait a half hour to 45 minutes, and then try putting it out, folding it and shaping it.
Okay.
I think you'll have better results with that. The one that's a little stiff, there's not a lot that you can do about that. And it's hard to tell just from the description whether it's stiff because we just didn't have quite enough water for your flour. That's the other thing that's different. Everybody's flour is a little bit different. And some of them are thirstier than others and need a little bit more water. And it's really hard to, that just comes with experience and feeling your dough, whether, but that we would have had to correct yesterday. So, or maybe it just needs a little bit more rising. You could just wait a while and do this step a little bit later. If you feel like it's just, if you feel like it's dense because it hasn't risen enough, let it sit some more. If you feel like it's dense because it's drier, unfortunately, there's not a lot that we can do to correct it now. You should just shape it and let it proof. It may take a little bit longer, but it'll still make a nice bread. Okay.
She was saying it's the Easy Tiger flour.
Well, that should be pretty much the same as ours. So,
sorry. Well, like you say, let's let it proof and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, then you can give it a second trial. Right. Yeah.
One other question then, whether or not she weighed out the flour or did she scoop it? Because if you measured it by volume, that's one of those things where I really like to use the scale because how you measure flour by volume can change how much it is. So maybe you have, even though it's the same flour I'm using, maybe you have more of it, so you need a little more water.
Got it.
Again, it's kind of hard to tell whether it's that or just needs to rise a little bit more.
Okay, sounds good. All right, David, so can you show us what the next steps are? Once our alarm goes off and we feel like our bread is proof and ready to bake.
Which one was it? This one, I can tell. All right, so you need to preheat your oven for at least a half hour, but it can even go longer. So if you want to turn it on right now so you don't forget, that's great.
I'm going to turn mine on right now. Hold on. Okay.
450 degrees. And if you're using a Dutch oven like this, heat this as well. Leave this in there and get it nice and hot. Don't forget to use these.
That wouldn't be good.
Now, with a deep Dutch oven like this, I'm just going to Where did I have that? I'll use this. I have a nice, sharp, serrated blade. I'm going to put it really quickly on the counter. Can you see this?
No, go a little bit.
This way?
Yes.
There we go. Okay, and then I'm just really quickly going to make it just a slice there and a slice here. This is the easiest way for a Dutch oven bread, I think, to score it. Just an X like that. Not too deep, just about maybe a eighth to a quarter inch deep. Take the lid off the hot pot. And again, this is where the parchment really helps. But if you didn't have that, if you just have a bowl full of dough, you can just sort of gently tip that in like that. But I'm just going to put with the parchment in there. Try to keep the parchment off the top of the loaf. Put the cover back on.
Oh, you leave the parchment paper inside.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Now, all right. I also have, I don't think you can see this, but so I just put that back in there and let that bake like that. So I also have in this oven, I have my racks so that one's on the very bottom and one's just one shelf above it. And then the one above it is where I put my Dutch oven. If I don't have a covered Dutch oven, if I'm doing it in the rectangular loaf pan, or say I just have a skillet without a lid for it, or a pie tin even works. Any kind of baking pan that does not have a cover, then I have a cake pan in the very bottom, and then I would just quickly but carefully pour a little water into that hot cake pan, and that'll make some steam. So that moisture, if you have the lidded Dutch oven, that's going to capture the moisture from the loaf itself. If you don't have that lid, you want to make some moisture inside your oven. So you just have some kind of pan that will heat up, and then pour a little bit of warm water into it, and that'll make some steam in the first part of the bake.
Okay, so let me make sure everybody's understanding. So if you don't have the Dutch oven pan that looks like this, got a top on. If you don't have a top, then whatever pan you're using, which the options of pans are on the website, it explains, it got pictures, everything in there. But what you want to do is just get you can get a baking sheet and put on the rack underneath where
Right.
you putting your pan with your loaf, and put a little bit of water so it creates steam in there.
Right. And it has to be something that has edges so you can pour the water in.
Yes.
Like a flat baking sheet would not work, but one that has edges, or I just used a rectangular cake pan.
There we go. Okay, perfect.
But because I have the Dutch oven, I don't need that. So if you have the covered casserole or Dutch oven or combo cooker, something with a cover, it's going to capture the moisture from the loaf itself.
So
and you don't need the steam.
Don't need to put the water in there.
Right.
Okay, so Cal Bell is asking, what's the temperature of the oven? Is 450, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And then also, hold on, Pairing, she was saying, I guess because she doesn't have the parchment paper, so she's going to do the bowl, right, which you flip over. So
right.
Then she was asking about the scoring. The scoring is not going to go in the bottom. Then you score once it's in the pan.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the advantage, again, to having the parchment, is you can score it and then put it in there. But if you don't have it, then you just have to very carefully cut the top, just carefully, because you don't want to burn yourself. Remember, that pan is really hot.
Yes, it's very important to put whatever pan you're going to use warm that up in the oven first, right?
Right, because that's what's going to give that heat to the bread right away and make it rise in the oven the best.
Got it. And even if you're using like a sheet pan, just a regular sheet pan, put that in the oven ahead of time too, because any extra heat you can give to that bread in the very beginning is beneficial. Okay. The Balanced Glow is saying so many aha moments here. Yes, for me too.
Good.
I can't find the comment right now, but somebody was saying that their Dutch pot is too large. It was asking if that's okay, if it's a large one.
Yes, that's okay. Yes, your loaf might spread a little bit more, but if you pull it tight like that, and if you proof it in a bowl, and then if your Dutch oven is hot to begin with, it's not going to spread too much. But you're still creating that nice moist environment with the top on. So yes, a larger Dutch oven will work fine.
Okay. So Kim Cakes, she's asking, do you put the water in once you put the loaf in, or do you put the water in while the oven is preheating? Good question.
I like to heat the pan first and put hot water and put water into it right as I'm loading the bread in there, because then it's hot and it makes steam. You can do, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, if you're worried about, the steam in your face, and you can put a little bit of water in the bottom. Don't put too much though, just like maybe a 1/4 inch on the bottom, because you want the water actually to go away during the bake. You want moisture in the beginning of the bake, and then you want that moisture to go away about 15-20 minutes into the bake. You want no moisture, and you want to even like crack the door a little bit and let some of that moisture out just briefly.
Got it. So put the water in as you put to bake.
Yes.
Got it. How long do we leave it in the oven? Somebody's
well,
asking.
we're gonna check the we're gonna take the lid off after about 20 minutes. If we chat for 20 minutes, yes, again, because you want, in the beginning, you want that moisture, but then you want to let that moisture go away, because you'll get a better crust that way.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so you put it in there with the lid, and then 20 minutes after it's in the oven, you take the lid off.
Yes.
So then for the people that don't have the lid on, then what, they open up the oven a little bit?
I would check it in about 20 minutes and just crack the oven. You'll see it won't be too brown yet. It'll maybe start to take some color, but then you can let a little bit of that moisture out just for a few seconds, and then close it again.
Okay.
In total, so after the 20 minutes, we're going to check again in 15 minutes and see if it's done. If it's not done, we'll keep baking it a little bit more. But it could be done as soon as 15 minutes after the first 20. So what's that?
So 35
20 to 35 minutes, yeah.
35 minutes. Okay. How do you know when it's ready?
Let me show you. All right. This is totally fake anyway, but I'm going to use a thing.
Instagram magic, TV magic.
Right. So this is a loaf that I had baked earlier, but so it's not really hot out of the oven.
Wow.
But it'll still show us. But this was baked in this pan with this cover. This cover in this pan. That part's not fake. It's just the fact that this isn't hot out of the oven. That's the only fake part. This was real. This is not from the bakery. This was a handmade loaf that was baked in this pot.
Same recipe we just did.
So, but you take it carefully out. You will, your hot loaf, you will want to have some kind of pot holder or something. And you're going to turn it over. Let's see if you can hear this. It's harder to hear right now, but it should sound kind of like somebody's knocking on the door.
Can you use your knuckles instead of your fingers? So I might be able to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not hot out of the oven, but it should sound like somebody's knocking on the door. It should sound hollow inside. If it doesn't yet, if it's just a thud, thud, that's when you want to put it back for a few minutes. You're also looking for the color, of course. Baked in a Dutch oven, it'll have this nice crust to it. Sometimes the Dutch oven gets a little dark on the bottom. There's a couple of things you can do to help prevent that. You can put the Dutch oven on a sheet pan. That sometimes helps. You can also, like after that 20 minutes, if you want to, you can take the loaf out of the Dutch oven and just put it right on your oven rack. It's a little harder to do, but that'll help get the crust all the way around.
I'm
But
gonna
it's a
try
little
that.
bit delicate there
I'm
at
gonna
that point.
try that.
But it's that nice hollow tapping sound that you're listening for.
Okay, and that's it. And then you
Yeah.
done. You know how to make bread.
You're almost done.
What do you mean? What do you
Um,
mean?
so I know that there's a great temptation to eat bread hot out of the oven. Everybody likes warm bread, but it's really not done until it cools down. There's still baking happening as it's cooling. And if you cut it too early, it's going to be a little bit gummy. So if you want hot bread, the best way to, if you want like your bread warm, and who doesn't, right? Let it cool down and then put it back in the oven for 5 minutes or so to warm back up. Because you're really that cooling period. There's a lot of waiting in baking, right?
It is.
You got to have
It
patience
is.
to bake.
But I'm gonna tell you something. It's well worth it to know where you put it in your body. It's well worth it to know, like this recipe, it's 3 ingredients only. We know, we're making at home instead of getting all the preservatives and additives and all that stuff. It's well worth it, the work.
Sure is. And it's fun work.
Yes.
But yes, letting it cool down is also an important step. So after it comes out of the oven, take it out of the Dutch oven and put it on a wire rack to cool down.
Okay, let it cool down for an hour.
Yeah.
Are you going to slice that and show us how it looks inside?
Of course.
What? Come on, that's like torture. Let's see how it looks inside. And then I want to do, like, before we close the class today, I want to go back on the steps. So we're going to keep it very simple. I was this morning doing it in my head and I'm like, wait, I think we got this, guys. Let's see this. Bring it closer. Bring it closer. Please. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it came out nice. I'm happy with this one.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. And then, guys, I will go back. Let's do a regroup here, David. I'm going to like say the steps out loud, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong, okay? This is the test. And then, guys, at home, grab a pen and a paper, because the way that I describe my steps, if it's easier for you, then you can have it following. So you can be part of the test as well. All right, so I'm going to take it from the top. You get your starter, right? Right when you get your starter, whether you got it from a friend or if you got it from Easy Tiger or a different place, you are going to feed. Now, question, if you're getting from a friend, do you still feed it when you get it, or do you ask your friend, when was the last time you fed your starter this?
I would ask your friend.
Okay, so if your friend had fed that week, do you leave it alone unless if you're going to bake it next day?
Right.
Okay. So every time you're going your starter, you keep it in the refrigerator. It's a live organism. You keep it in your refrigerator. You have to feed once a week. Correct?
Right.
Now, I did have a question on that. If you're going to feed once a week, is the amount that you feed, it's on the website, guys, on Women of Today. It says starter feed starter.
Right.
That's what it's called, right? Actually, I don't know if we put that feed starter in there. We can put it on stories after this. But how much do you feed? It's like a quarter water. How much? Do you remember?
I don't remember the volume measurements.
Okay,
I never use them.
I have it, guys. I'm going to put it on the stories. I'll add it to the recipe as well. So is that like that amount? Is that basically like whatever starter you have? If you feed that amount once a week, you're going to keep it alive?
Yes, but
okay.
you have to start with the same amount of starter. So when you're feeding it, so if you have 100 grams of starter, or about what is that, a quarter cup or so, in the refrigerator, you're going to feed it with that feed that we have on the instructions with our starter, and you can find that on our website as well. You're going to feed it that amount, but you're going to have more now. And so if you just keep feeding it every week, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So if you're not using it for baking, you have to take that 100 grams to start with and then feed it with the 100 grams of flour and the 60 grams of water. Every time you have to start with that 100 grams. So now you're going to have 260 grams, right? So you have to just take 100 grams and put it back in your fridge. You leave it out for about an hour or so to make sure that it's active and going, and then you put it back. But you have to start with that same amount because those ratios are what are important. It's the ratio of starter to flour to water.
So let me ask you something. Does it make sense to weight your starter as like before you feed to know how much to
Yes.
feed?
I always do it by weight, yes, and yes. So if you put 100 grams into the fridge, you're going to feed it with the 100 grams. It's not going to weigh 100 grams when you take it out of your fridge because it's going to, some water is going to evaporate, but that's okay. But if you put it in at 100 grams, you're going to feed it that 100 grams and 60 grams. Then you're going to have some left over. That's called discard. And you can actually you can take that discard and put it back in your fridge. And when you've done that for a couple of weeks, you'll have a quantity of discard. You can use that in other recipes for flavor. You can make pizza crust, you can make chocolate chip cookies with it, you can make cake with it, you can make all kinds of different things. Look on the web, just Google sourdough starter discard recipes, and you'll find all kinds of other things that you can do with your starter.
Got it. Okay. So that's the starter part. Every time you're going to bake, like, so I'd say, you know what, I want to have bread Saturday. You're going to, on the Thursday, so it's 3 days before you bake, you want to bake, you're going to feed your starter. Pull out of the refrigerator, you feed, you leave sitting out at room temperature, like at nighttime before you go to bed.
Right, exactly.
Then the next morning, you wake up, you do the bulk feed.
Exactly.
Right?
And so the first feed is waking it up, getting it active, and then the second feed is building it so you have enough for your recipe, plus to put some back in your fridge so you can do it again.
So I said one thing wrong. So the next day, you're going to bulk feed between 3 to 8 hours before you're going to actually bake, mix the ingredients.
Mix the ingredients, right.
All right. So there we go, guys. First step is you got to start waking up. You started slowly. You feed one time at night. The next day, between 3 or 8 hours before you're ready to mix the ingredients, you bulk feed. Then 3 or 8 hours later, you mix the ingredients. Then you're gonna let it out, covered plastic for 1 hour. Let it sit for 1 hour, room temperature. Then you're gonna do the 4 folds on the side, fold on each side. Flip it over, right? So the folds are on the bottom. Then you're going to cover with plastic and leave it overnight.
Right.
Got it. Next morning, which is what we did today, you're going to open up, do a 4 fold on a surface with some flour, flip it over, fold in the bottom, parchment paper if you have. Then you do the steps we did today, that we just did today, which you put in a bowl. You're going to let it proof for an hour to an hour and a half. And then you bake it. Then you cook it.
Right.
Okay.
A+.
Yes. All right. Did you guys pass the test? That's the question. And I think that, you guys have a Facebook thing, and, we're, as a Women of Today, we'll be here too. So if you have questions and things like that, I might have some questions in the future with the starter, David, that I'll come to bug you again.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
And then, guys, before we say our goodbyes, because I'm going to, have my tea and set up my little things here so I can bake my too. You have to make sure. Okay, this is a must. Okay, guys? This is a must. You must share with us a picture or a video of your bread. We did these classes together. I'm dying to see if your bread worked. Dying. Okay, and I'll show you guys a picture of mine.
Me too. So, yeah, please also, if you want to join us, Easy Tiger on Facebook. We have a group called Easy Tiger Breadwinners.
Okay.
And it's grown to, I don't even remember how many people it is at last count, but the last time I saw it was approaching 2,000 people together in this great community. People are answering each other's questions. I go on there and check, and I answer questions too. But it's just a group to share and ask questions, but also just to share our pictures and everything. It's been really, really fun, and I hope it continues even as we move through this period of time. So happy to bake bread with people all over the world. This is really fun.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? Okay, guys, if when you
show you one more thing?
Yes.
Before we leave?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, David, two things. I was going to say, when you guys share a picture of your bread, tag Women of Today, tag Camila, me over here, where you are, tag Easy Tiger, so we can repost, okay? So we can repost and do a little, I don't know, we'll do something special to celebrate what we just did, okay? So you guys make sure, and maybe you can also post the name of your starter. Whatever name you decided for your starter. We might come up, maybe we can come up with a prize for the best starter name. What do you think, David?
That's a great idea, yes.
Okay, there we go. So we have a starter name competition. Send names and share the photos or video of your your final product after this class. And then we will reshare and keep the conversation going. David, I do want to answer. Do you mind just answering a few more questions, because people are
not
asking
at all
questions? Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Before we go here, okay. Perikin says, can you leave this video up for a few hours? So the video will be on my IGTV. Okay. Somebody was asking, the questions are coming really fast, so I'm losing track here of who's asking what. So I'm sorry if I'm not bringing names up, okay, guys? But somebody was asking, what about if they want to add rosemary to the sourdough bread?
Yeah, just chop it up a little bit, not too fine, but chop it up a little bit and put it in with the flour right from the beginning. That's a great addition, yes.
Oh, in the beginning, when you're mixing the ingredients?
I would, yes.
Okay, so not
for this kind of recipe.
Okay, so not at this step. So do not add your rosemary right now at this step, right?
You could fold it in, but then it's just going to be in one spot in the middle.
Got it. What about
the next time you do it, you could mix it in.
What about olives, David? My kids love olive bread.
That I would probably try to fold in now.
Oh,
like
really?
At this stage, like when you're do it in the morning, because those olives are they're gonna make the dough won't rise overnight quite as well with big chunks of olives in there, partially because of the brine from the olives and partially because of the big chunks. Rosemary you can chop up, it's finer, it's going to be distributed through there. It doesn't mean you couldn't add some rosemary now, but it's just going to be kind of, because we don't really rework the dough a lot, it's just going to be kind of in those folds. But that would be fine too. It would just be these veins of rosemary in there.
Okay. Martha Davenport is asking, if we keep on counter, the starter on the counter, and feed daily, do we just keep it to bulk feed daily?
Again, that's going to be an awful lot of starter if you're not using it. If you're using it, the reason I call it bulk feed is because you're bulking it up so you have enough for your recipe plus some left over. So if you don't want it to grow too big, then just take a little bit, like that 100 grams, and feed it that amount, just the maintenance amount. If you're maintaining on the counter, you got to feed it that maintenance amount every day. If you're maintaining in the refrigerator, it's okay to just do that once a week.
Okay. So Austin T asked, oven 450 for how long again? So you preheat the oven, you put your pan inside when you preheating your oven, so the pan where your dough is going to be, it's going to be hot. Right. And then for how long again?
20 minutes with the cover. Take the cover off, check after about 15 minutes, and it can be anywhere from 15 to 20, 25 minutes after you take the cover off. So 35 to 45 minutes total. Okay,
depending on your oven. Margaret is asking, Camila, did you say take it out of the fridge night before and feed, and then bulk feed the next day? So yes, you take it out of the fridge, you feed the night before, and then you do the bulk feed between 3 and 8 hours when you're ready to mix the flour and the water and the salt. Like when you're ready to mix the ingredients, you need to bulk feed 3 to 8 hours before, correct?
Right, yes.
Look at me. I'm acting like the expert, David.
You've learned this really well.
uh, okay, Donna Goose, you say, Camila, my oven runs hot. Should I lower the temperature? I'm nervous.
Yes, if you know that your oven runs a little hot, just knock it down 25 degrees.
Okay. Lexi saying starter name contest. Yes, baby, we're doing it. Okay, so Austin V1. So I've been baking sourdough. Can't speak, guys. I need my tea. Sourdough bread each week for about a month. And my starter is a lot more than 100 grams. Do I just use 100 grams of the starter for the starter feed for each loaf and leave the rest in the fridge?
It depends on how much you need for the recipe that you're baking with. You have to make sure that so the way I do starter, and again, there's lots of different methods, but you take your starter and whatever weight starter you have, you equal that weight with flour, and then 60% of the weight of the flour is the water. So 100 grams of flour, 60 grams of water. If it's 200 grams of flour, it's 120 grams of water. It's that ratio that's important. So if you need, like for this recipe, you need 150 grams. So yes, if you had 100 grams and you fed it 100 grams plus 60 grams, you'd have enough to do that and save some.
Okay.
It's all about, it's about the ratios more than the amount. Just make sure the one thing you want to do, and it's not about, taking some of it and feeding it. You want to feed your starter and then save some of it. So, and if you have extra from what you save and from after you've baked and saved some, you still have extra, then that's the discard. You can save that in the fridge. And once you have enough to make one of those discard recipes, you can do that. Or you can just compost it too.
Okay, but that's not what you give to friends, right? So if you want to give to friends,
you could give that to friends. That's another great thing you can do. Yes,
okay,
exactly.
There we go.
Yeah.
Andrea Garvey's asking how to order the kits. We have all the information on Women of Today website. The links are in there. Mm-hmm. Go to the site. You can order for your friends.
Oh, my glasses are steaming up. I just want to show y'all this real quick before we have to go. I'm taking the lid off of this. See how nicely that's risen up? Wow, that looks great. This is going to be a beautiful loaf.
Yes.
So it's not done yet. I wasn't watching the clock, but I think that's about 20 minutes or so. So that's perfect. It's risen really nicely. Put it back in there real quick.
We'll stay here another 15 minutes. We're going to see the final result. Hold on. Oh, somebody was asking what kind of flour from Central Milling in Austin.
The Central Milling, which you can find on the website, because their mill is in Utah and they're based out of California. But I use their artisan flour. They have, it's their unbleached white flour. It's called artisan flour for us.
Okay, perfect.
But they have lots of different ones.
Look33 is asking, where should we post photos? You can post it on your Instagram, post it on your stories. Just make sure you tag us so we can see, because if you don't tag us, we won't be able to see it. So tag me, Camila here, McConaughey, tag Easy Tiger, tag Women of Today. So tag the three of us. One of us will get it and we'll share it out with everybody.
Yeah, we're at Easy Tiger ATX.
There we go.
I mean, I'm sure there's links to us on Women of Today and all that, but we're at Easy Tiger ATX.
Exactly. Honey Wayne is asking, do we use bread flour?
I like more of an all-purpose. Bread flour is a little bit too much protein, too much gluten. But you can use it if that's all you if that's what you have. Use bread flour; it'll be fine. It might be might want to put just a tiny bit extra water, like another extra tablespoon or so, and it's just going to be stronger, a little bit more resistant, but it will work great.
Okay, I'm just looking to see what other questions we have before we say our goodbyes, guys.
Somebody yesterday asked about the book too. I brought it today.
Oh yes. Can you bring it a little bit
Bread on
closer?
the table.
No, it's beautiful.
It came out great. It's a wonderful book. They did a great job. It's from 10 Speed Press. They did a wonderful job for it.
It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so common 385 is that. So I'm technically challenged with that. I'm gonna try to figure out how to tag you guys. So when you're going to post, it's gonna give you a little option on the lower left, I believe. I think on the lower left, but it says tag people, and you press that, and you just type our names, and it will show up, and you just click on that, and it will automatically do it for you. Okay, Coffee Time Daily is asking, can I use any kind of flour for the starter?
Yes.
Okay, but we talked yesterday. It should be shouldn't it be the same flour that you use on the starter first?
It's best to keep it going like that, but if you want to change it to a different flour, and this is what we talked about yesterday, like even going to a gluten-free flour you can change to, or if you want to change it to whole wheat, or if you want to change it to rye, then you just need to give it, like, again, you're planning ahead. You need to give it a few days to get accustomed to the new food. So if you switch it to a gluten-free flour, it's going to take a couple of days when it switches out for it to get used to the new food and switch over and be used to it, and then it'll be active again. Remember, with gluten-free, you're not going to get the rise in the same way. And in your bread recipe, there's other things that you have to put in there to get a rise. But I'm sure that if you're baking gluten-free, you have some of that knowledge already. But you can convert your starter to gluten-free. It's just not going to be, you're not going to see the same rise, but you'll see the bubbles and the activity, and you'll smell it, and you'll taste it. It'll taste pleasant.
Okay. We only have a few more minutes, guys, before they actually, believe it or not, we've been here for almost an hour. They're going to kick us out on Facebook because it's an hour that you can only do an hour, the Facebook Live. So they're going to kick us out. I'm going to take a few more questions here. Meg Leonard 83 is asking, how long for cooking again? 20 minutes with the lid, and then how long for the rest?
Check it after 15 minutes.
Okay, so 20 minutes with the lid, take the lid off, then leave it 15 minutes and check it out. And if you still feel like it needs more time, then you leave it more time, right? You got to check, right. You got to do the sound right there. Okay. Let's see. Okay, guys, I think that is it. I think because they're honestly, they're about to kick us out. And we're just gonna be like talking, and then it's gonna be gone. Okay, how do you keep bread fresh after baking, and how long does it last?
So a sourdough bread like this will be good for 3-4 days. And certain 4 or 5 days you can still make toast from it. The best place is right on your counter. Either put it in, wrap it in a linen towel, put it in a paper bag if you want. You can also just, once you've cut it, just leave it on the counter or your cutting board, face side down. This nice crust that we've made keeps the inside moist, and this protects that one slice. And that's the best way. The worst place to keep it is in the refrigerator. It's going to go stale faster in there. If you have more bread than you feel like you and your family are going to eat in the next 2, 3, 4 days, take half of it and put it in plastic and freeze it. Okay. So freezer or room temperature is the best. Refrigerator is a no-no. So
when you freeze, do you recommend slicing it or freezing it whole?
That doesn't matter as long as it's sealed really well in plastic. And if you slice it, maybe double bag.
Got it.
That's convenient. So then you can take out one slice at a time if you want to do it that way.
Exactly. So can we do this again, David? Can we do another class on maybe like?
I would love to.
Like maybe pretzel making or something like that. Like my kids love pretzel, but I don't buy it because it's got all that cracked stuff in it. And I don't know how to make it, so I don't know, like it'll be fun to learn something like that.
That'd be really fun. Yes.
Let's do it again.
Everybody loves pretzels.
Yes. yes. We have some people asking if you have an Instagram account and where they can buy the book.
The book is available anywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Book People. Go to Book People,
Book people, yes.
Austinites. And you can order it. It's from 10 Speed Press. It's called Bread on the Table. We're at Easy Tiger ATX on all our socials. I'm at Doughpuncher on Instagram. You can find me, David Norman, on Facebook. And yes, tag me too. I'd love to see them, but I'll see the Easy Tiger ones too, of course.
Perfect. David, thank you so much for doing this. I so appreciate it. We so appreciate it. I know that you guys at home are just going, thank you, because you guys stay with us this whole time. So I am speaking for you guys. And I know that you guys been sending such nice messages of gratitude. Thank you for taking the time, guys, for doing this from yesterday to today. And I can't wait to see all the breads. And David, let's do this again.
Let's do it.
All right.
I've had lots of fun, Camila. Thank you so much. Thanks for providing this opportunity. It's been so fun, especially to see how all over the world people are following along. I love passing on bread making. I love bread, both making it and eating it, obviously. So this has been really fun. Thanks for the opportunity.
No, thank you for sharing all your knowledge. And again, guys, if we're going to have bread, which we all know we don't want to do it all the time. But if we're going to do bread, if it's part of what you do for your family, it's better to have homemade. So that was the whole goal of teaching you guys some knowledge during this time that you can know what you put into your body. And David, it's so grateful for sharing your knowledge. Over 30 years of experience. This is amazing. What a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Oh, and Camila.
Yes.
Happy Mother's Day.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And a shout out to my kid's mother, Paula, my beautiful wife. Happy Mother's Day to her too.
Yes, and happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, guys. This is actually could be a great Mother's Day gift, actually. Just
perfect.
Drop it off. So, guys, don't forget, share the pictures and videos with us, okay? Mwah. Beijos. Bye, David.
Bye. Thank you.
Have a great Saturday.